my name is Susan Pachikara, and I manage strategic communications for the Education and Child Development Department at NORC at the University of Chicago. Today, I'm speaking with Eric Brown, a research scientist who co-led NORC's Math Mindset Study. Research shows that math achievement is a gateway to upward mobility. Yet many Black and Latinx students and students from low-income communities lack the support they need to become skilled in the subject. That hinders their paths to STEM careers and other promising opportunities. So Eric's team examined students' attitudes about math and their math abilities, which we'll refer to as their math mindsets, and their experiences studying math. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Susan. It's good to be with you.
So let's start with some background for this study. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned in your introduction about underrepresentation in STEM, and I think that was really a starting point for us for doing this study. And to give an illustration of what we mean by underrepresentation, a national study was done and found that in 2018, Black adults numbered 14% of the population in the United States, but they only received 9% of the science and engineering degrees that year.
Wow.
Yeah, so if there were 100 folks in a room who had science and engineering degrees, only 9 of them would be Black. And that was definitely problematic, right, for us, because when you think about the science, technology, engineering, and math, or what we refer to as STEM, when you think about that sector, it's projected to experience a lot of growth. And these jobs tend to be higher paying jobs. And so we want individuals to have more access to those jobs. And for us as a research team, it was important to understand what are the factors that are contributing to this underrepresentation that we're seeing. And we decided to begin with students' experiences in their math classrooms, as you mentioned earlier, but also understanding what are their views about math and their own math abilities.
That's great to know. So tell us a little bit about your intentionality in terms of designing the study.
Yes, I think there were 3 overarching goals that we focused on with respect to designing the study. The first was to make certain that we were centering student voice, right? Because this is about their experience, and it was important that we understood from the source what that experience was like. The second goal was to make sure that we were hearing from a diverse and representative group of young people. And we have this really great asset at NORC that made that possible. It's called the AmeriSpeak Household Panel. And this is a nationally representative group of households around the country that have agreed to complete surveys for our research studies. So we were actually able to recruit students from grades 4 to 12 to participate in the study. And then the last goal was to make certain that we were amplifying the voices of historically marginalized communities, Black students and Latinx students. And it was important to do that for 2 reasons. The first reason being that when you think about mathematics education research more broadly, those communities are not well studied. They're not well represented in studies. So it was important to be inclusive to those communities. But because we're studying underrepresentation and we want more individuals from those groups to be represented in STEM, it's also important that we amplify their voices and understand what is unique about the experiences that they're having.
That's terrific. So you are capturing the voices of students directly and making sure that among them there was a diverse group. Everybody's getting included.
Absolutely.
Sounds like a really, really great approach. So when you looked at the data, what lens did you use to analyze it?
Yes. So it was important for us to use an equity-based approach to doing our analysis. So if you think about what typically happens when you're analyzing data like this, you have different racial and ethnic groups. You compare the groups and then you sort of report out on how they're different. And we did do that for this study. But we were also intentional about doing a subgroup analysis where we just looked at the responses from the Black students in the study, and then also another subgroup analysis where we just focused on the Latinx students in the study as well. That allowed us to take advantage of the fact that we oversampled those groups. So when you think about their percentages in the population, we actually included more Black students and more Latinx students in our sample. And that, again, contributes to being able to amplify their unique perspectives and experiences.
I love it.
I think what this also allowed us to do is it allowed us to avoid gap gazing. So gap gazing is a phenomenon that other mathematics education researchers have written about. And it results from doing analysis where white students are compared to Black students or Latinx students. And we report out on the differences, but we don't pay any attention to how historical factors or differences in learning environments may be contributing to those differences.
So there can be biases or systematic barriers, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And if you're not accounting for those barriers, then you may not be fully explaining why you observed the differences between white students and Black students, for example. So it was definitely important for us because if you think about the issue of underrepresentation, you think about the issue of making sure that we're centering historically marginalized voices, then it was also important for us to take this equity approach to doing data analysis as well.
That sounds great. So there sounds like there was intentionality with the design and the execution. Now I'd love to hear about the findings. What was surprising?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say the most surprising thing that we found overall, so this applies to everyone in this study, many of the students that responded to our survey reported positive views about math, positive views about their math abilities, and then also positive experiences in their math classrooms. And why was that surprising to us? Because we have this underrepresentation issue, right? And we just expected that more people would report that they don't enjoy math. At the same time, we did note differences by gender, by race and ethnicity, and by socioeconomic status in the way that students were responding as well.
So like or dislike of math might not be the actual bump in the road. It's other factors that are causing that little hiccup.
Absolutely. I think the subgroup analysis that we did really allowed us to kind of dig in deeper to the experiences of groups that we wanted to understand more about, right? And so to the point that you just made, when we just looked at our Latinx students in the study, we found something really interesting. The young women were reporting less confidence about their math abilities. They were also reporting less positive experiences in math classrooms compared to their male counterparts. But then at the same time, they were outperforming their male counterparts academically, and they were also taking more higher level math classes. And this was just fascinating to us. I mean, we took a resilience perspective, to really kind of frame that finding, because you can have a group of people stating that, I don't feel confident about my ability when it comes to math, and I don't have the greatest time in class. But then to also see that they were doing well, right? That's resilience. That's something that you could actually build on if you were thinking about doing interventions to support more of those students taking higher level math classes.
So that does sound a little bit puzzling, but it leads to my next question. So for policymakers, researchers, and other people who are really working hard to improve student math achievement, what can they take from this work?
The one very preliminary conclusion that we draw from this study is that a one-size-fits-all approach to supporting underrepresented students and taking more higher level math classes during high school that would ultimately lead to majoring in math in college and then potentially moving into a STEM career. A one-size-fits-all approach would not work, right? And that's because we did note the differences in their experiences based on race and ethnicity, gender, and socioeconomic status. And I think the fact that we've noted that also points to the need for researchers to understand more about how those factors are shaping students' experiences in math.
That's really, really, really helpful, and sounds like it can, make this stuff work actionable, which can be really exciting. Well, Eric, thank you so much for sharing your insights from the study.
Absolutely.
And thank you for everybody who has tuned in. If you want to learn more, you can visit us at norc.org. Thanks again.
Thank you.